Stay with me. You're gonna be okay.
It hurts.
I know. Just hold on.
The airport never slept. It breathed loud, restless, impatient, filled with rolling suitcases, half-goodbyes, delayed dreams, and people running from something they refused to name. Zara Williams stood among them, still as a pause between heartbeats, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her boarding pass folded tight in her palm like a final decision. She hated airports. Too many beginnings, too many endings, too many people pretending they weren't afraid of what came next. Her flight was boarding in 12 minutes. 12 minutes until she left this city, this life, every man she had ever turned away. She slipped her headphones on, music low, not to enjoy it, but to keep the world at a distance. She had learned long ago that distance was safer. Distance didn't betray you. Distance didn't promise forever and vanish when things got hard. That was when the air changed. It wasn't loud at first, just a ripple, like the room flinched. Zara looked up. A man staggered a few steps in front of her. Tall, broad-shouldered, expensively dressed, but not flashy. His coat slipped off one shoulder as if his body had suddenly forgotten how to carry its own weight. His hand reached out blindly, fingers grazing empty air. Then his knees buckled. He fell, hard, right at her feet. Gasps tore through the terminal. Someone screamed his name, or maybe screamed something. Phones came out. People froze in that awful space between curiosity and responsibility. No one moved toward him. For half a second, neither did Zara. Not because she didn't care, but because something inside her recognized this moment with terrifying clarity. This is how it happens, her mind whispered. This is the moment that changes things. She could step back. She could walk away. She had done it before. Instead, she dropped to her knees. "Hey," she said, her voice steady even as her heart slammed against her ribs. "Hey, can you hear me?" His skin was cold beneath her fingers. Too cold. His chest rose, then stuttered, then barely moved at all. Dark lashes fluttered against his cheeks. His face tense like he was fighting a battle no one else could see. Blood rushed in Zara's ears. "Stay with me," she whispered, pressing her palm flat against his chest as if she could will his heart to remember its job. "You don't get to leave right now." She didn't know why she said it like that. Like a command, like a promise. Around them, chaos finally erupted. Call for help. Is he breathing? Someone get security. But Zara heard none of it. Please like and subscribe and turn on notifications to follow more love story like this. All she saw was the man on the floor, his life slipping through invisible cracks, his fingers twitching weakly before curling into her sleeve. As if even unconscious, he knew she was the only thing keeping him anchored. Her throat tightened. "Don't do this to me," she thought. "Not now. Not here." Sirens wailed in the distance. The man's breathing grew shallow. His lips parted, a soundless breath escaping, and then his body went frighteningly still. Zara's heart dropped. "No," she said sharply, leaning closer. No, stay. Look at me." His eyes opened, just for a moment, dark, disoriented, searching. They locked onto her face. Something passed between them then, brief, electric, inexplicable, like recognition without memory, like two lives brushing against each other at the exact wrong or right moment. Then his eyes rolled back, and his chest stopped moving. A paramedic shoved through the crowd. "Clear the area." Zara didn't move until strong hands pulled her back. As they worked over him, she stood frozen. Her fingers still curled where his heartbeat had been seconds ago. Her boarding pass crumpled to the floor beside her. She stared at the man she didn't know, the man who had collapsed into her life without warning. And for the first time in years, Zara Williams felt something crack open in her chest. Fear, hope, and the terrifying sense that walking away was no longer an option. The monitor let out a long, piercing sound. Flat. A doctor shouted, "We're losing him." Zara's breath caught as the defibrillator was raised. And one thought echoed in her mind, louder than the sirens. "If he dies, a part of me goes with him." Clear. The word cracked through the air like a gunshot. Zara flinched as the paramedic pressed the paddles to the man's chest. His body jerked violently, then fell still again. The sound of the monitor screamed in protest. Long, unforgiving, final. Flatline. No pulse, someone said. Zara's hands clenched into fists so tight her nails dug into her palms. She stood just beyond the invisible boundary of the emergency, useless and trembling, her heart racing as if trying to beat for both of them. This isn't your responsibility, her mind told her. You don't even know his name. But her chest burned anyway. The paramedic shocked him again. Come on, Zara whispered under her breath, barely aware she was speaking. You're not allowed to die in front of me. Not like this. As if her voice had reached him somewhere deep beneath the darkness. The monitor flickered. One jagged line, then another. A pulse. We've got him, the paramedic shouted. Zara's knees nearly gave out. They rushed him onto a stretcher, oxygen mask covering his face, machines beeping urgently as they sped through the terminal. Security cleared a path. People stared. Phones recorded. The world devoured the moment without understanding it. A nurse jogged beside the stretcher. Who's with him? Zara opened her mouth, then stopped. Who was she to him? A stranger. Coincidence. The woman he collapsed in front of. I am, she said anyway. The words came out instinctively, not logical. Like her heart had answered before her fear could stop it. The nurse nodded and motioned for her to follow. The ambulance doors slammed shut, sealing Zara inside a blaring cocoon of urgency and flashing lights. She sat pressed against the wall, hands shaking, eyes locked on the man's face. Up close, he looked younger. Early 30s, maybe. A faint scar traced his jawline. His brow was furrowed even in unconsciousness, like he was used to carrying the weight of impossible decisions. Don't leave, Zara whispered again. You don't even know me yet. The ride was short but endless. At the hospital, chaos swallowed them whole. White lights, rushing feet, voices overlapping. His stretcher vanished through swinging doors marked emergency. Authorized personnel only. Zara stopped short. The doors closed. Silence hit her like a slap. She stood there, alone, her reflection staring back at her in the glass. Eyes wide, breath shallow. A woman who had promised herself never to care this much about a stranger. She sank into a chair in the waiting area, elbows on her knees, head bowed. Her boarding pass fell from her pocket and landed at her feet. She stared at it. Gate C-17. Final call time approaching. She should leave. She always left. But her body refused to move. Minutes blurred into an hour. Or maybe it was 10. Time lost meaning in that sterile room filled with quiet prayers and buzzing phones. Then she heard it. 2 doctors talking near the nurse's station. We can't afford complications, one said. The board will lose their minds if we lose him, the other replied. Dr. Cole is too valuable. Zara's head snapped up. Dr. Cole? Her heart pounded as she listened harder, her pulse racing with a strange, creeping dread. Billionaire donor, the second doctor continued in a hushed voice. Top cardiologist. He practically funds half this wing. Zara froze. Billionaire. Doctor. Her stomach dropped. She looked back at the closed emergency doors, suddenly seeing the man on the floor in the airport not as just a stranger, but as someone from a world she had never wanted anything to do with. Power, money, tension. Men like that didn't notice women like her. Men like that came with expectations, complications, headlines. This is your warning, her fear whispered. Get up. Walk away. Before this becomes something you can't escape. Zara stood. Her legs trembled as she took one step, then another. She reached the end of the hallway when a nurse burst through the emergency doors. Miss! Zara turned. Yes. The nurse looked at her urgently. He's awake. Zara's breath caught. And, the nurse added softer now, he's asking for you. Zara's heart slammed violently against her ribs. He doesn't even know my name, she thought. So how does he know? I'm the one he wants to see. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and quiet fear. Zara stood just outside the door, her hand hovering inches from the handle, her pulse pounding so loudly she was certain the machines inside could hear it. She had faced angry customers, broken promises, and long nights alone. But this terrified her in a way she didn't fully understand. She almost turned around. Almost. Then she remembered his fingers clutching her sleeve at the airport. She pushed the door open. The room was dim, lit mostly by the steady glow of monitors and the thin line of city light leaking through the blinds. The man lay propped against white pillows, an oxygen tube resting beneath his nose, his chest rising and falling in shallow but steady breaths. He looked different, smaller, vulnerable, less like someone the world revolved around and more like someone who had nearly slipped through it. His eyes were closed. Zara took a tentative step closer. "That's him," the nurse whispered behind her. "Take it slow. He's still weak." The nurse left, and the door clicked shut. Zara was alone with him. She stood at the foot of the bed, unsure where to put her hands, her words, her heart. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to be here, standing in the aftermath of a stranger's near death, feeling like her presence mattered. She exhaled slowly. "Hi," she said softly, feeling ridiculous. "You scared a lot of people today." His brow twitched, then his eyes opened, dark, focused, searching. They landed on her face and stayed there. For a moment, neither of them moved. The room felt suspended, like the universe had leaned in to watch. Elijah Cole's gaze sharpened as recognition flickered across his features. His lips parted slightly and his voice, when it came, was rough, like it hadn't been used in a long time. "You," he said, just one word. Zara swallowed. "Me." His fingers twitched against the sheets, as if he was checking whether she was real. "You were at the airport," he murmured. She nodded. "You collapsed. I stayed." A faint, disbelieving smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "I remember thinking, I shouldn't be alone right now." Her chest tightened. "I wasn't planning on getting involved," she admitted quietly. "But you didn't really give me a choice." His eyes softened at that. "You could have walked away," he said. There it was. The question that had been waiting between them since the moment he fell. Zara stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "So could everyone else." Silence stretched. Elijah studied her like he was trying to read something written beneath her skin. "Why didn't you?" Zara opened her mouth and stopped, because she knew what it felt like to be abandoned when everything fell apart. Because something in his eyes looked like he was already halfway gone. Because she was tired of being the woman who always turned away. Instead, she said, "Because leaving felt worse." His breath hitched. For a second, the billionaire doctor, the man people feared, admired, envied, looked like someone who had just been given something priceless and didn't know how to hold it. "Thank you," he said simply. The words carried weight. Not polite gratitude, but something deeper, something raw. Zara nodded, suddenly overwhelmed. "You're going to be fine. The doctors." "I know," he interrupted gently. "I am one." Her eyes widened. He watched the realization dawn on her face, a trace of amusement flashing through his exhaustion. "Elijah Cole," he said. "Cardiologist." Zara stiffened. So it was true. Billionaire doctor. Power. Status. A world she didn't belong to. Her defenses slammed back into place. "Well," she said, forcing a smile, "then I guess you're in good hands." She took a step back. Elijah noticed immediately. "You're leaving," he said. It wasn't a question. Zara hesitated. "I was already supposed to be gone." His jaw tightened slightly. "Will you stay? Just for a little while?" The request was quiet, vulnerable, dangerous. Zara looked at him. This man who had everything, yet somehow needed her, and felt the familiar urge to run rise in her chest. Because staying had never ended well. Because caring was always the first step toward pain. She opened her mouth to refuse. A sharp alarm suddenly blared from the monitor beside the bed. Elijah winced, his hand flying to his chest as his breathing faltered. Doctors rushed in, pushing Zara aside. And as she stumbled backward, heart racing, One terrifying thought consumed her. If she walks away now, this might be the last time she ever sees him. The room erupted into motion. Doctors flooded in, voices sharp and urgent, hands moving with practiced precision. Zara was gently but firmly guided back until her shoulders hit the cold wall, her heart hammering as she watched them surround Elijah's bed. Vitals are unstable. Prep another line. Sir, stay with us. Elijah's face tightened in pain. His breathing turned shallow again, his fingers gripping the sheets like he was holding onto the last thread of something fragile. Zara pressed her palm to her chest, trying to steady her own breathing. This is what happens, her mind screamed. This is why you don't stay. This is why you don't care. She had seen this before. Hospital rooms, beeping machines, the helpless waiting, the crushing guilt of wondering if you should have done more or less. A doctor glanced at her. Miss, we need you to step outside. Zara hesitated. Elijah's eyes found hers through the chaos. They locked, and in that instant, something unspoken passed between them. Fear, trust, a silent plea that cut deeper than words ever could. Don't leave. Her feet stayed planted. I'll wait, she said quietly, her voice shaking but firm. Right here. The doctor studied her for a second, then nodded. Don't move. Minutes dragged like hours. Zara watched as medication was administered, as numbers on screens slowly steadied, as the room exhaled in cautious relief. Finally, the tension eased. He's stable, someone said. Zara's knees nearly gave out. The doctors began to file out, leaving behind the low hum of machines and a fragile calm. Elijah lay still, exhausted, his eyes half-lidded but open. Zara stepped forward before she could overthink it. You scared me, she said softly. A faint, apologetic smile touched his lips. I seem to be doing that a lot today. She shook her head. You shouldn't be joking. Habit, he replied. Then, more seriously, you stayed. The weight of that statement settled between them. Yes, she said. I did. Elijah watched her like he was memorizing her face, as if afraid it might disappear if he blinked too long. Most people don't, he said quietly. Not when things get inconvenient. Zara felt the words like a bruise. I know. Silence filled the room again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was charged, heavy with things neither of them were ready to say. Elijah shifted slightly, wincing. What's your name? She hesitated. Names made things real. Zara, she said finally. Zara Williams. Zara, he repeated, tasting it. I'm Elijah. I know, she replied. Everyone seems to. A shadow crossed his expression. That's the problem. She met his gaze. Then maybe this is the one place you don't have to be that man. His breath caught. For a moment, he wasn't a billionaire doctor. He wasn't a public figure or a savior or a symbol. He was just a man lying in a hospital bed, looking at a woman who saw him. You were leaving, he said softly. Zara nodded. I still am. The lie tasted bitter. Why? He asked. She searched for a safe answer and found none. Because staying never ends well, she said honestly. Elijah absorbed that, his eyes darkening with understanding. Someone hurt you. She didn't respond. He didn't push. Instead, he said something that made her heart stutter. Stay tonight. Zara's breath caught. What? Not forever, he added quickly. Not promises. Just tonight. Sit with me. Talk to me. Let me know I'm not imagining this. Her instinct screamed run. Her heart whispered don't. She looked at the clock. Her flight had already departed. The choice had been made without her realizing it. Zara pulled the chair closer to his bed and sat down. Just tonight, she said. Elijah closed his eyes, relief washing over his face like a prayer answered. Thank you, he murmured. Zara leaned back, pretending her hands weren't shaking. She told herself it was nothing, just a night, just kindness, just a stranger. But deep down, she felt it, the dangerous, undeniable truth. This wasn't the beginning. As Elijah drifted into sleep, his fingers found hers, curling gently around them. And Zara realized, with a sudden rush of fear, she hadn't just missed her flight. She had crossed a line she might never be able to uncross. Elijah fell asleep with his hand still wrapped around Zara's. She noticed it only after the room had gone quiet, after the machines settled into steady rhythms and the hospital lights dimmed to a soft glow. His grip was loose, unconscious, but intentional enough to make her chest tighten. She didn't pull away. Instead, she sat there, staring at the wall, letting memories she had buried claw their way back to the surface. This was how it always started. Stillness, closeness, the illusion of safety. Her mind drifted, not because she wanted it to, but because it had nowhere else to go. 5 years earlier, another hospital, another waiting room that smelled like disinfectant and hopeless prayers. Zara sat hunched forward, fingers intertwined so tightly they hurt, watching the double doors like they might open and change everything if she stared hard enough. She had been younger then, softer, the kind of woman who believed love could protect you from loss. Marcus had promised he'd be there. "I'm not going anywhere," he'd said, kissing her forehead. "We'll face this together." Together. The word echoed bitterly in her mind now. When the doctor finally came out, his face heavy with sympathy, Zara turned instinctively toward the empty chair beside her. Marcus wasn't there. He hadn't answered her calls, hadn't returned her messages, hadn't even said goodbye. She faced the worst moment of her life alone. Afterward, when she finally tracked him down, he hadn't even tried to lie. "This is too much," he'd said, avoiding her eyes. "I didn't sign up for this." That sentence had rewritten something inside her. Love, she learned, was conditional. Presence was temporary. And the moment you needed someone the most was often the moment they left. So Zara stopped staying. She stopped hoping. She stopped letting men get close enough to disappoint her. Now, in a different hospital with a different man, the past felt dangerously close. She looked down at Elijah. Even in sleep, his brow was faintly furrowed, like rest didn't come easily to him. There was strength in his face, but also exhaustion, the kind that came from carrying too much alone. "Don't do this," she warned herself. "Don't rewrite history just because this feels different." Her phone buzzed softly in her pocket. A notification from the airline. Rebooking available. She could leave in the morning. She could end this cleanly. No explanations. No attachments. That was her pattern. Zara gently slid her hand from Elijah's grasp. He stirred immediately. His fingers tightened, not fully waking, as if his body noticed the absence before his mind did. "Don't," he murmured. Her breath caught. "I'm right here," she whispered, instinctively slipping her hand back into his. His breathing evened out again. Zara closed her eyes. This was dangerous. Not because he was powerful, not because he was wealthy, but because he needed her, and she felt herself wanting to stay. And wanting had always been the first mistake. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against the edge of the bed. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "I don't know how to stay without losing myself." Elijah shifted slightly, still asleep, but his lips curved faintly, as if some part of him heard her. A soft knock sounded at the door. Zara looked up as a well-dressed woman stepped inside. Elegant, confident, her gaze sharp with familiarity. She looked at Elijah, then at Zara, and said calmly, "I've been looking for him, and you must be the woman from the airport." Zara froze. The woman's heels clicked sharply against the hospital floor. Her perfume trailed behind her like a warning. She was polished, deliberate, and entirely unafraid. Everything Zara felt she wasn't. "And you are?" Zara asked, her voice steady despite the sudden rush of adrenaline. The woman smiled faintly, but her eyes were sharp. "I'm Cassandra. I handle Dr. Cole's affairs." Zara's chest tightened. Affairs? The word carried more than business. It carried control, influence, and a warning she couldn't ignore. Cassandra's gaze shifted to Elijah, still lying fragile but alert on the bed. "He's fine thanks to you," she said politely. "But let's be clear, he doesn't usually allow strangers into his world." You're an anomaly. Zara swallowed. An anomaly. That was one word for it. I didn't plan on intruding, Zara said carefully. I just stayed because he needed help. Cassandra's eyes narrowed slightly. And now you've taken up more of his time than anyone else. Time he can't afford to give. Time he wanted to give, Zara thought, but didn't dare say. Elijah stirred, blinking up at them. Cassandra, he said weakly, voice hoarse. She helped me. Cassandra looked at Zara, the corner of her mouth twitching as though suppressing both amusement and annoyance. I see. Zara felt her stomach knot. She didn't know what she'd expected. A polite acknowledgement? Respect? Instead, Cassandra radiated subtle dominance, the kind that made Zara feel like she was already being sized up and found inadequate. Elijah reached out toward Zara, his fingers brushing her hand. It's okay, he whispered. She's just concerned about business. Zara's pulse quickened. Business? That one word carried weight she hadn't bargained for. The world he inhabits isn't for people like me. Cassandra cleared her throat, finally speaking with unmistakable authority. I know you were at the airport. I know what you did. But this is my responsibility now. I need to make sure he rests. Zara bristled, but Elijah shook his head. No, she stayed because she wanted to, not because anyone asked. Cassandra's smile sharpened, almost predatory. Intentions are irrelevant in the public eye, Doctor. The media will have their version. Photos, articles, speculation. Your private life will become front-page news by morning. Zara felt a cold weight settle over her chest. She had known nothing about him before today, except what she saw. A man who had nearly died at the airport. A man who now held a fragile thread of trust in her hands. And now the world wanted in. Elijah sat up slightly, using the strength he had left. Zara, it's okay, he said again. But his eyes lingered on hers in a silent please stay. Don't let them scare you away. Zara swallowed hard, knowing the truth. She could leave at any moment. She could vanish like she always did. But she didn't. Not this time. Cassandra studied her for a moment longer, her expression inscrutable. Then, with a faint nod, she said, Very well, but understand this. Being close to him isn't just dangerous for you emotionally. It's dangerous for him too. And everyone around him will notice. That's a risk you have to accept. Zara's stomach twisted. Dangerous? She thought she'd been running from emotional danger all her life. But now it wasn't just emotion. It was public exposure, scrutiny, judgment, a world she had no experience navigating. Elijah reached for her hand under the blanket, a quiet tether to reality. I choose you, he whispered, almost to himself, but loud enough for Zara to hear. The words made her chest tighten, her heart betray her better judgment. I shouldn't be here. I can't belong here. Yet when she looked at him, exhausted, vulnerable, yet fiercely alive, she felt the same pull she had felt the moment he collapsed at her feet. And she realized, for the first time, walking away wasn't an option. Later that evening, Zara's phone buzzed. An unknown number. A message appeared. Stay away from him, or you'll regret it. Her hand trembled as she stared at the screen. The danger was no longer abstract. The world was closing in, and someone didn't want her in it. Zara couldn't sleep. Not in the hospital room. Not with the city lights casting pale streaks across the floor. Not after the message. Stay away from him, or you'll regret it. Her fingers traced the glowing phone screen as though it might suddenly erase itself. But the words remained, sharp and threatening. Her instincts screamed, danger. Her mind screamed, run. Zara had spent her life running. From men, from heartbreak, from disappointment. And every instinct told her that this was no ordinary warning. She slipped quietly out of the chair, careful not to disturb Elijah, whose steady breathing told her he still trusted her, even unconsciously. Outside the room, the hospital was calm but not empty. The hum of fluorescent lights, distant voices, and rolling carts made her aware of every step, every shadow. She walked down the corridor like a ghost, adrenaline making her senses acute. Every glance from a passing nurse, every echoing footstep, felt like it could be someone following her. Back in her pocket, the phone buzzed again. A second message. If you think you can stay, think again. He belongs to the world, not you. Her hands shook. She realized something horrifying. Staying wasn't just dangerous emotionally. Someone powerful, didn't want her near Elijah. Zara stopped, breathed, thought. Her instinct told her one thing: get out before it's too late. By the time she returned to her bag, decision made, she felt a strange combination of fear and relief. She was going to leave. The elevator doors dinged, swallowing her in shadows. She clutched her bag tightly, thinking of all the times leaving had saved her. And yet, she hated the thought of abandoning him again. Back in the hospital room, Elijah stirred awake. "Zara?" he murmured, voice hoarse, eyes flickering to the door. She froze mid-step, her hand on the handle. I have to go," she whispered, voice trembling. Elijah tried to sit up, but weakness pinned him to the bed. "Why? You can't just leave. Not like this." She swallowed. It's not safe. For you, for me. Someone doesn't want me here. I can't risk it." Elijah's brow furrowed. "Danger?" "Yes." Her words were firm, though her chest ached. "I don't even know who, but it's real. And I can't." "Then we face it together," he interrupted, surprising her with the strength in his voice. "I've faced danger all my life. I saved lives on operating tables and in the streets. I can face this too. Don't run." Her chest tightened. He was begging her to stay, not for appearances, not for convenience, but because he wanted her. Zara wanted to stay. Oh, how she wanted to. But her instincts screamed louder than desire. She pulled the door open. The moment she stepped into the hallway, a shadow detached itself from the end of the corridor. Tall, broad, silent, watching. Zara froze, and then she recognized the face. The same man who had sent the messages. A cold smile spread across his face. "Leaving already, Miss Williams?" Her heart skipped. She realized this was no ordinary warning. This was war. Zara's heart slammed against her ribs like it wanted to break free. The man in the hallway, tall, broad, dressed sharply, his face unreadable, wasn't just an anonymous threat. She knew instinctively he was serious. Every step he took echoed in the sterile corridor like a predator closing in. "Run," her instinct screamed. "Get out before it's too late." Her bag felt impossibly heavy. Every instinct in her body was screaming leave now, yet her legs refused to move fast enough. Before she could decide, the man's voice sliced through the quiet. "Miss Williams," he said, calm, precise, yet dripping with menace. "You really shouldn't have involved yourself." Zara froze. The familiarity in his voice sent a shiver down her spine. She had heard that tone before. The tone of someone used to getting what they want. "He's serious. He won't stop." She darted down the corridor, heart racing, adrenaline sharpening every sense. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "You're making a mistake. He is not yours." Her stomach twisted. Whoever this man was, he had power, connections, influence, and he wanted Elijah, without her in the picture. Back in the hospital room, Elijah had awakened fully. "Zara?" His voice cracked with worry. She didn't answer. Her only thought was escape, but she knew she couldn't run far, not with someone like him tracking her. Elijah pushed himself up from the bed, weak but determined. "Who is it?" Zara didn't have time to answer. She rounded the corner, and the man blocked the exit. "I told you to stay away," he said again. Fear collided with defiance. Zara squared her shoulders. "I'm not leaving him," she said, more to herself than him. The man's lips curled into a dangerous smirk. "Brave, foolish. I admire that in a woman. But I hope you understand the stakes." Before she could react, he stepped forward, and then the hospital alarm blared. Security rushed toward the corridor. The man's eyes narrowed. In an instant, he disappeared into the crowd, leaving Zara shaken but unharmed. Back in the hospital room, Elijah met her eyes. His hand reached for hers, gripping tightly. "You can't keep doing this," he said, voice low but firm. "You can't put yourself in danger for me." Zara swallowed. "And yet, I couldn't leave." Elijah's gaze softened, but the weight of the threat was there, too. He had faced emergencies before, patients, accidents, life and death, but nothing had prepared him for this. Someone targeting the one person he now cared for more than his own safety. "Zara," he said, voice barely above a whisper, "I won't let anything happen to you. Not now. Not ever." Her heart ached. His promise was unshakable. But she knew the world they were stepping into, his world, was dangerous, relentless, and ruthless. The lights flickered in the hallway. A shadow moved outside the door, slow, deliberate, and Zara's stomach dropped as she saw him through the glass pane. The man from the corridor. And this time he wasn't alone. Behind him, a second figure appeared. Someone she recognized. Someone who had been in Elijah's life long before she ever arrived. Zara's blood ran cold. "This is bigger than I thought," she realized. The hospital corridor had never felt so small. Zara's heart was a drumbeat in her chest, loud enough to drown out everything else. The distant beeping of monitors, the shuffle of nurses' shoes, the soft hum of fluorescent lights. The two men outside the glass door didn't move fast, but the threat in their stillness was undeniable. One of them was the man who had cornered her earlier. The second, someone she recognized instantly. Someone connected to Elijah's past. Her stomach twisted. "Elijah," she whispered. He was beside her instantly, hand gripping hers, eyes scanning every shadow like a predator. "Stay close," he said, low and commanding. Zara swallowed her fear, letting him pull her back into the room. The door clicked shut behind them, the lock engaging with a soft but final thunk. They were trapped. "Who are they?" Zara asked, her voice tight. Elijah's jaw clenched. "Business. My past. People who don't like that. I've moved on." Moved on. The words sounded strange. To him, they were matter-of-fact. To her, they carried weight, danger, and the undeniable implication that her presence in his life was a threat. Zara's eyes met his. "So, you're saying I'm in the crossfire?" He nodded. "Yes, but you're not leaving. Not tonight. Not ever." Her chest tightened at his insistence. His hand held hers with quiet authority, grounding her in a way no one ever had. She wanted to argue. She wanted to say, "No, I can leave." But every fiber of her being screamed, "Stay." Even with the danger looming, the shadow outside shifted again. "Time to go," Elijah said suddenly, a sharp edge in his voice. "Go where?" Zara asked, panic and disbelief lacing her tone. "Somewhere safe," he said. "Somewhere they won't find you. Not yet. Not until we know who they really are." Zara hesitated. She had spent her life running. She had built walls so high she thought no one could ever climb them. And yet, here she was, letting this man pull her into his world, into danger, into intimacy she wasn't ready for. But when she looked at him, vulnerable, determined, yet protective, she realized something she hadn't allowed herself in years. She didn't want to leave. They moved quickly through the hospital, using side corridors, avoiding security cameras and lingering staff. Every step was calculated. Every sound amplified their fear. Finally, Elijah paused at a small service elevator. "This will take us to the underground garage," he whispered. "From there, we disappear for a while." Zara's hand shook as she gripped his. "Disappear? You mean hide?" "Yes," he said simply. "Because if they want to play games with me, they'll have to find us first." Her stomach churned, equal parts fear and adrenaline. And yet, something in her chest warmed. A sense of belonging she hadn't felt in years. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding. Elijah stepped inside, pulling her after him. As the doors began to close, a loud, deliberate clack echoed behind them. Zara froze. Elijah's gaze snapped toward the hallway, dark and sharp. A figure blocked the last stretch of corridor, stepping into the light just as the elevator doors slid shut. And Zara's blood ran cold. It was the second man, the one from Elijah's past. His lips curled into a knowing, dangerous smile. "You're not going anywhere," he said. The elevator descended, and Zara realized, with a sudden rush of fear and excitement, that for the first time in her life, she wasn't running from love. She was running toward it. But the danger chasing them wasn't just business. It was personal, and someone had already marked her as a target. The underground garage smelled of oil, damp concrete, and something faintly metallic that made Zara's stomach twist. Elijah led her swiftly, his grip firm but careful, guiding her through shadows between rows of parked cars. Every sound echoed, every step a potential threat. "We can't stay here long," he whispered. "They'll know we've disappeared within minutes." Zara nodded, though her hands trembled. She had spent her life avoiding danger, avoiding attachment, but now every instinct screamed to trust him, to follow him. They reached a sleek black SUV parked in a corner. Elijah opened the passenger door for her. "Get in." Inside, the car smelled faintly of leather and cologne. Elijah sat across from her in the driver's seat, eyes scanning the shadows for movement. "Who are they?" Zara asked quietly, her voice trembling. "The men outside. The one from your past. Why are they after me?" Elijah's jaw tightened. He exhaled slowly. "You're not the target." Her brow furrowed. "I'm not? Then what am I?" "You're collateral," he admitted. "Because I care about you." The words hit harder than she expected. Collateral. Someone he cared for. Someone important. Someone he wanted to protect at all costs. "I don't belong in your world," she said, voice breaking slightly. "I'm not equipped to handle this. Rich people, threats, enemies." He reached across the console and took her hand in his. His thumb brushed gently over her knuckles. "You belong in my world if you want to. Not because it's easy, but because I choose you. That's all that matters." Zara's heart skipped. She had never been chosen like that before. Never by someone who wasn't obligated to, who didn't gain something from it. She swallowed hard, the fear and adrenaline mixing with a strange, intoxicating warmth. The SUV started moving, tires crunching on the concrete. Elijah's eyes never left the rearview mirror. "They're not just business rivals," he said quietly. "That man, the one outside, he's family. Well, not family exactly. Someone I trusted. Someone I thought I could count on. And he feels threatened by you being here." Zara's grip tightened on his hand. "By me?" "Yes." His voice was low, pained. "Because if you leave or if they hurt you, then I fail. And I can't fail again." Zara felt a lump rise in her throat. For the first time, she realized how deep she was already tied to him. Not just emotionally, but to his life, to his enemies, to the stakes she didn't understand. "Then we fight," she said suddenly, determination lacing her tone. "Together. I'm not leaving. Not now. Not ever." Elijah's eyes softened, relief and something tender flickering in the depths. "I like that," he whispered. The car turned sharply onto a quiet street. Then, a black SUV pulled up beside them, lights off, silent as a predator. Elijah's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "They found us," he muttered. Zara's breath caught. "What do we do?" He glanced at her, his expression unreadable. Then his lips curved into a small, dangerous smile. "We fight, but there's something you need to know first." She braced herself. "You're in deeper than you realize," he said, voice low, almost a growl. "Because they're not just after me, they're after my life. And if they can't get me, they'll go after anything I care about. Including you." Zara felt her stomach drop. Me? She had known being with him would be dangerous, but this was worse than she imagined. Before she could respond, the SUV beside them accelerated, pulling in front to block their path. Tires screeched. Elijah slammed the accelerator. "Hold on." The two cars collided into a deadly chase through the dark streets of the city, tires squealing and hearts pounding. Zara clutched his arm as he weaved expertly through traffic, her mind a storm of fear and exhilaration. As they swerved into a deserted alleyway, The second SUV rammed them from behind. The impact sent Zara crashing into the dashboard. She looked up. Elijah's eyes met hers, fierce, determined, almost feral. And in that split second, a thought flashed through her mind. If we don't survive this is how it ends. The car skidded violently. Sparks flew, and the world went black around them. The world smelled like smoke and burnt rubber. Zara's head throbbed. Her vision was blurry, but she could make out the twisted metal of the SUV crumpled against the alley wall. The city lights flickered above them like distant stars, indifferent to the chaos below. She blinked, trying to focus. Elijah! Her voice cracked. He coughed violently, blood tinged at the corner of his mouth, but his hand found hers instinctively. The connection, fierce and grounding, made her stomach twist. I'm here, he said, voice strained but alive. His eyes scanned her face as though measuring if she was okay. I'm fine, she lied, gripping his hand tighter. Fear, relief, and adrenaline coursed through her in waves. She wasn't fine, but she didn't want him to see how fragile she felt. They stumbled out of the car, breathing heavy, hearts racing. The alley was silent now except for distant sirens. Elijah, who were they? She whispered, voice trembling. The men chasing us. The second SUV? His jaw tightened. Someone I trusted. Someone I considered family. And someone who felt threatened by you being here. Zara froze. Family? The word carried weight she didn't understand. She had thought she knew danger. She had thought she knew betrayal. But now she realized she had only touched the surface. You're telling me it's personal, she said softly. Yes. His voice was low, almost a growl. And dangerous. And if I'm honest, I never wanted you involved. She swallowed hard. Too late for that, she said. I'm already here, and I'm not going anywhere. For a moment, their eyes locked, and the world outside the alley, money, power, enemies, faded. Just for a heartbeat, it was them. Then reality crashed back. Elijah pulled her close instinctively. We need to move. Fast. She nodded, letting him lead her down side streets, avoiding traffic and cameras, avoiding detection. Her pulse was still racing, but a strange warmth thrummed through her chest. She couldn't explain it. Fear and exhilaration mixed into something intoxicating. Hours later, they arrived at a secluded safe house. Quiet, isolated, far from the city lights. Elijah guided her inside. Sit, he said, voice softer now, almost tender. Zara sank into the couch, heart still racing. The adrenaline of the chase had faded, leaving raw fear, relief, and something else. Something she hadn't felt in years. Safety. Elijah sat beside her, close enough that their knees brushed. His eyes softened. You were amazing out there. I was terrified, she admitted. He leaned slightly toward her. I know. His hand hovered near hers, then settled gently atop it. And you stayed. That's what matters. Zara's breath caught. His thumb traced the back of her hand, slow, deliberate. A small, dangerous warmth spread through her chest. She wanted to pull away, wanted to remind herself that she didn't belong here, that she should run. But she couldn't. She looked at him, searching his face. Elijah, why me? Out of everyone. Why me? He swallowed, eyes darkening with truth. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt something real, something I can't explain, and I won't let it go, even if it puts both of us in danger. Her chest tightened. The words were raw, unpolished, full of honesty and risk. She realized she had been running from the possibility of someone choosing her. And now, she didn't want to run anymore. Elijah's eyes flicked to the window. The night was silent, but the tension hadn't left. Danger was still out there, somewhere, and then she saw it. A shadow moving across the rooftop. He froze. Not them, he muttered. Zara's stomach dropped. Who? Elijah didn't answer immediately. His jaw tightened. Someone I didn't expect. Someone from the inside. Zara's pulse spiked. Inside. Before he could explain further, a sound shattered the silence. A window breaking somewhere in the building. They both snapped toward it. A figure slipped through the shadows, moving fast, silent, and deadly. And Zara realized, with a rush of ice in her veins, the danger wasn't over. It had just become personal. The intruder's mask caught the dim light, glinting, cold, almost mocking. Elijah's hand went to the small pistol at his side. Zara's heart lurched as she whispered, "Who is it?" Elijah's jaw tightened, eyes dark. "Someone I thought I could trust. Someone very close to me." The shadow moved closer, silent as a ghost. Zara's heart hammered, her hands shaking as she glanced at Elijah. He was tense, every muscle coiled, eyes locked on the intruder. The figure stepped into the dim light of the safe house, and the mask caught the glow. Elijah's jaw tightened. "I should have seen this coming." Zara's stomach dropped. She didn't recognize the voice immediately, but the tone, the subtle cadence, hit Elijah like a punch. "Ryan," he whispered. The man, or rather the traitor, pulled off the mask. Zara's breath caught. It was Ryan, Elijah's longtime friend and former business partner. Someone he had trusted more than anyone outside his family. The kind of man whose loyalty had been beyond question until now. Ryan's eyes were cold, calculating. "I didn't expect you'd bring her into this world, Eli," he said, voice sharp and bitter. "She doesn't belong here. And you," his gaze flicked to Zara, "you've made this personal. You've made me do what I have to do." Zara's heart pounded. "What do you mean? What do you want?" Ryan's lips curled into a smirk. "I want him gone. I want his empire shaken. And anyone close to him, collateral." Elijah's eyes blazed. "You're insane. We could have worked this out. We could have fixed the rivalry without bringing her into it." Ryan shook his head. "No, you always did everything your way. And now, someone I can't control is in the picture." Zara's chest tightened. "You mean me?" "Yes," Ryan said bluntly. "You, the girl who fainted at the airport. The one who dared to touch his life. You're the problem." Elijah stepped in front of her instinctively. "She's not a problem, Ryan. She's my choice. And if you touch her, I swear." Ryan laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You still don't understand, do you? I own pieces of this world, Eli. And I won't let someone like her, someone who doesn't belong, wreck what I built." Zara's hands trembled. She wanted to run, but she stayed, held by a strange mix of fear, adrenaline, and loyalty. To Elijah, to the man who had trusted her despite knowing nothing about her. Suddenly, Ryan lunged. Elijah moved first, stepping between Zara and the man he once called a brother. Their fight was swift, brutal, and tense. Each move a calculated risk. Zara ducked instinctively as a metal pipe flew across the room. Ryan's attack too fast for her to react. She felt a surge of fear and anger mixed together. "I'm not running. I won't run." Her hands flew to help. She grabbed Ryan's sleeve, pulling just enough to disrupt his aim, giving Elijah a moment to strike. "You stay here," Elijah barked. "I'm not leaving you," she shouted back. The tension between them was electric. Not just fear, but the growing intimacy that had been simmering since the airport. Their connection was undeniable, intensified by danger, fear, and adrenaline. Elijah's eyes softened for a fraction of a second. "I won't let anything happen to you," he whispered, then turned back to Ryan, fists ready. The fight escalated, knocking over furniture, sending glass shattering across the floor. Zara's pulse raced. Fear, adrenaline, and something else. A thrill she hadn't felt in years. She realized she didn't just want to survive this moment. She wanted to be with him through it. Ryan faltered for a second, giving Elijah the upper hand. But then he smiled, cold and knowing. "You think you've won?" Ryan sneered. "This is just the beginning." Suddenly, the sound of sirens pierced the night. Ryan froze. Elijah's eyes darted toward the window, and Zara's stomach dropped as she realized. The sirens weren't police. They were something far worse. Ryan smirked. Looks like your night just got even more interesting, Eli. Zara's hand flew to Elijah's. What does that mean? Elijah's jaw tightened, eyes dark with fury and fear. It means we're about to find out exactly how deep this goes, and who's really behind it all. The sound of the sirens grew louder. Not police, not ordinary alarms. Zara's stomach churned. The city's quiet night had been shattered by something far more calculated, far more dangerous. Elijah's eyes darted toward the window, scanning the streets below. His jaw was tight, lips pressed into a hard line. They're coming for us, he muttered. Zara's hand flew to his arm. Who? Ryan? He shook his head. No, he's just a pawn. Someone else is orchestrating this. Her chest tightened. Someone else. Yes, he said, voice low, urgent. Someone powerful. Someone who doesn't just want me out of the picture. They want control over everything I've built. And now over you too. Fear and adrenaline surged through her in equal measure. She had already faced near-death chases, betrayal from a friend, and gunfire. And yet, every time Elijah's gaze met hers, something inside her calmed. Something inside her said, stay, trust him, fight with him. She realized with a shiver that she was falling. Not just for his charm or wealth, but for the man he was beneath it all. Fierce, loyal, protective, and undeniably human. Elijah grabbed her hand. We have to leave. Now, there's a car waiting downstairs. We move fast, we move smart. Zara followed him without hesitation. She didn't know where they were going or how they would survive. She only knew that she couldn't leave him, not after everything. The safe house door clicked behind them, and they ran down the stairwell, two shadows moving in perfect sync. Outside, a black SUV waited, engine running. Elijah pulled Zara inside. The tires squealed as they tore into the night, weaving through streets with precision. They know our route, Elijah muttered. We'll have to improvise. Zara clutched his arm. Improvising sounds dangerous. He glanced at her, a flash of humor despite the chaos. Danger is kind of our thing tonight, isn't it? They swerved into a narrow alley, tires scraping walls. Then, from the shadows, a group of men appeared, heavily armed, blocking the exit. Zara's heart leapt into her throat. Elijah's grip on her hand tightened. Stay close. The men moved fast, but Elijah's driving was faster. They rammed through the barricade, sparks flying, adrenaline pulsing. Inside the SUV, the tension between them shifted. Fear mixed with something else, something neither of them had acknowledged until now. Desire, intimacy, closeness forged in danger. Elijah glanced at her. Zara, She turned to him. I know. Their eyes locked. No words were needed. 1,000 unspoken truths passed between them. She realized in that moment. She didn't just want to survive with him. She wanted to be with him. Suddenly, the SUV in front of them slammed on its brakes. Another car had cut them off. Elijah cursed under his breath. They've been expecting us. Zara's pulse raced. Who? Before he could answer, the car doors opened. Figures emerged, masked, precise and deadly. Elijah's face darkened. It's him, he muttered. The man behind everything. The one pulling Ryan's strings. The true enemy. Zara swallowed hard. Who is he? He didn't answer. Instead, his hand went to the dashboard, and a hidden compartment clicked open, revealing a pistol. Whatever happens, he said, voice low but firm. Stay close. Don't leave me. Not for a second. Zara nodded, heart hammering. She had never felt fear so close, so alive, or desire so intense. The masked men moved in from both sides of the SUV. Elijah's eyes met hers. Hold on, he said. Zara's hands flew to his, gripping tightly. The first shot rang out, and the night exploded into chaos. Gunfire shattered the night. Sparks flew as bullets pinged off the SUV's metal frame. Zara's heart hammered. She clutched Elijah's hand, knuckles white, trying to steady herself as adrenaline surged through her veins. Stay down, Elijah shouted, his body tense, protective. as he maneuvered the SUV through the alley. Tires screeched against the asphalt. Zara's mind raced. Every instinct screamed run, hide, survive. But she refused to let go of his hand. Not now, not ever. He glanced at her, eyes fierce and intense. "You're not leaving me. Do you understand?" She shook her head, her voice barely audible over the chaos. I'm not going anywhere." The SUV lurched violently as another car rammed them from the side. Elijah cursed, gripping the wheel, muscles taut with effort. Sparks flew from the tires as he spun the vehicle into a narrow alleyway, narrowly avoiding a chain-link fence. Zara pressed herself into the seat, heart racing. Not just from fear, but from the way his focus, strength, and determination made her chest ache in a different way. She realized, in that moment, she wasn't just afraid for her life. She was afraid of losing him. The pursuing men closed in, and Elijah realized they had no more escape routes. His jaw clenched. "We're going to have to fight our way out." Zara's breath hitched. "Fight how? We're unarmed." "Not entirely." He pulled a hidden weapon from the glove compartment, a small but precise handgun. His eyes softened slightly when he looked at her. "I'll handle them. You stay low, and trust me." Zara's stomach churned, but she nodded. She had trusted him all night, and she wouldn't stop now. As they neared an abandoned warehouse, Elijah swerved into the shadows, guns drawn. The pursuing men followed, relentless. The fight was chaotic. Bullets flew, shouts rang, and the night seemed alive with danger. Zara's heart raced, but her fear was tempered by exhilaration. She ducked instinctively, narrowly avoiding a bullet. Every time she glanced at Elijah, he was a hurricane of focus and determination, protecting her, guiding her, holding her even as chaos swirled around them. They reached a temporary cover behind a stack of crates. Elijah's eyes met hers, dark, intense. "You okay?" She nodded, chest heaving. I'm fine, if you are." A flicker of a smile touched his lips. "Good, because I need you alive." The words hit her harder than the bullets flying past. She realized, fully, what she had been avoiding for years. She loved him, and not just in a quiet, distant way. She loved him with every pulse, every beat of her heart. The fight escalated. Elijah moved with precision, taking out two of the men, but the third slipped past him and aimed straight for Zara. Time slowed. Zara's heart froze. Without thinking, Elijah lunged, shielding her body with his own. The shot rang out, but not from him. From behind, a sharp whistle cut through the air. One of the pursuing men collapsed, clutching his shoulder. Zara looked up. Someone was helping them. A shadow in the darkness, efficient, deadly. Elijah's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Before he could finish, the last man lunged again. Elijah grabbed him in a brutal hand-to-hand maneuver, throwing him against the crates. Zara's breath came in ragged gasps as she pressed closer to him. His arms circled her instinctively, protective, grounding, and burning with unspoken passion. In the chaos, with the night alive with danger, bullets, and adrenaline, she realized she didn't want to run from love anymore. Not from him. The temporary silence that followed was shattered by a single, low voice from the shadows. "Elijah Cole." He froze, eyes scanning the darkness. Zara clutched his arm, whispering, "Who is it?" A dark silhouette emerged, tall, imposing, with a face hidden in shadow, and Elijah's jaw went tight. "It's him," he said through clenched teeth. "The one who started this. The one who wants everything I have." Zara's heart sank, because she realized, for the first time, the danger wasn't just outside. They were standing at the doorstep of someone far deadlier than Ryan, and far closer than they imagined. The shadow stepped forward. The figure was tall, commanding, cloaked in the darkness of the warehouse. "Elijah Cole." The man's voice cut like steel. "You've caused me more trouble than you realize." Elijah's jaw clenched, fists tight. "I don't care about your threats. Leave her out of this." Zara felt her chest tighten. The man was powerful, radiating authority and danger. Everything Elijah had warned her about. But now, seeing it up close, she realized just how real it was. The man laughed, cold and merciless. "Leave her? She's the reason you're still alive. And the reason I'll finally take everything from you." Bullets rang out, echoing through the warehouse. Elijah moved instinctively, pulling Zara behind crates, shielding her from the chaos. Sparks flew as glass shattered, and adrenaline surged through both of them. Zara's pulse pounded not just with fear, but with something stronger. She realized how much she needed him, how much she trusted him, how much she loved him. "Elijah," she whispered, clutching his arm. He turned to her, eyes fierce, lips close to hers. "Stay with me," he said, "no matter what happens." "I'm not leaving," she said, voice trembling. "Not now, not ever." They fought side by side, hearts pounding, moving with unspoken coordination. Elijah took down one of the man's guards with brutal efficiency while Zara, despite the chaos, grabbed a fallen pipe and helped disarm another attacker. For the first time, she felt part of his world. Not as a pawn, not as collateral, but as a partner. Finally, it was just Elijah and the shadowy figure facing each other. The true enemy. "You should have stayed in your lane," the man sneered. "I don't have lanes," Elijah replied, eyes blazing. "And you can't touch her. You never could." With one decisive move, Elijah disarmed the man, sending him sprawling. The threat was neutralized, at least for now. Zara exhaled shakily, collapsing into his arms. The danger had passed, and yet, the adrenaline and closeness between them left them breathless. "Elijah," she whispered, heart racing, eyes shining. I love you." He looked down at her, expression softening. "I love you too, Zara. More than anything. You're mine, and I'm yours. Always." They pressed together in the shadows, the chaos outside forgotten. For a moment, it was just them, their hearts beating in sync, the world outside irrelevant. The sirens faded. Police and security arrived, but it was too late for the enemy to interfere. Elijah's world of wealth, power, and danger still loomed large. But now Zara was no longer an outsider. She was part of it. And for the first time, she realized something profound. Love wasn't about safety. It wasn't about avoiding danger. It was about choosing someone, even when the world tried to tear you apart. Zara and Elijah survived the night, but their story isn't over. The city may sleep, but shadows are always waiting, and danger has a way of returning. Broken heart, what happens next in Zara and Elijah's love story? Will their bond survive the next threat, or will the world finally pull them apart? Subscribe and turn on notifications to follow their story, because in the next chapter of Billionaire Doctor Love, nothing is safe, and every heartbeat counts. Comment below. Would you risk everything for love like Zara?